You are listening to the Beyond the High Road podcast with Shelby Milford, episode number 96. Stay tuned. Welcome to Beyond the High Road, a podcast dedicated to healing your heart and life following the grief of alienation. I'm your host, Shelby Milford, a twice certified life coach specializing in post-traumatic growth. If you're experiencing the effects of alienation and you're ready to heal, then this show is my love letter to you. Stay tuned. Hey guys, so I'm recording this on Wednesday, the day I usually release these. I usually get them out in the afternoons, evenings. I have made a deal with myself that I'm going to get this recorded and edited all this evening. Here's the deal, is it's ironic, it's a little entertaining, and it's also been a little self-sabotaging. What's going on for me is that I have been teetering on these two subjects that I really I felt strongly about addressing with you guys, for you guys today. And it's had me sitting and sort of spinning. I was deciding whether I wanted to separate them and do one episode and then the other, but I keep wanting to integrate them into the same episode, but I also don't want it to be so long. One of the topics is procrastination. And here I am. It's been days that I've been thinking about this, which of course got me down a whole nother rabbit hole of looking at how often this happens that we procrastinate about the procrastinating. But it is actually quite common. It seems to be, especially with the writers out there who are writing about procrastination. I did learn a good amount while I was down my little rabbit hole. But the other topic I wanted to talk about is purpose, feeling purposeful, creating purpose in your life. And so I think after I did a little bit of writing myself, and I think I'm going to wing it, knowing that these two are in my head, and I'm just going to share my experience, strength, and hope with my pain points with it, and trust that it will work. Obviously, every human on the face of this earth is going to procrastinate in one way or another. And there are the surface ways that we procrastinate with like taking the trash out and like mowing the lawn and just the everyday going to get your hair cut or whatever. And then there are the more emotionally charged reasons that we procrastinate. And that's what I really want to get into today, as usual, is the deeper seated causes for you're not getting it done, not addressing the things or prioritizing the things that actually really do matter when you're sitting in bed at night about to fall asleep and you start freaking out because certain things didn't get done. Those are the things that I'm talking about. So I can remember back when I was in active communication with my ex, actively parenting my daughter, and the exchanges were happening on a twice weekly basis. It was stressful. And so I did whatever I could to try to lower my stress. This is, of course, before I had the tools of managing my mind. I always am curious about what a difference it would make back then, having these mind management tools, how much less suffering unnecessary suffering I would have endured back then. But anyway, I can remember avoiding the little things, like waiting until the last minute to read an email that my ex had sent, responding to an email, actually sitting down to write the thing back to them because it just felt so draining, right? Waiting for the last minute to go in and speak to the teachers about whatever crisis or event that had just recently happened. Anytime I had to face my peers or somebody that didn't really know our situation well, and even those that did, because anytime I had to explain what was going on, I was faced with the reality at that time, the harsh reality that other people didn't go through what I was going through, which caused me to feel more alone just by merely going up to the school to explain the situation at hand. This Jerry Springer show, that was my life. That's how I thought about it back then. So in order to go and talk to the principal, I had to get up my courage to address it with myself and also with them that, hey, this is a quote unquote different situation than your regular run of the mill parent that comes up, right? Or even regular run of the mill modern family sort of situation that you might see all the time. Much of the time that I procrastinated, it was because, of course, I was having to face my harsh reality, my story of what my reality was. And of course, that's never pleasant, right? So it makes sense if you are in that situation and you don't want to answer emails from your ex, you don't want to write the response email because you know drafting that up is going to take however long. I know how this goes. You spend far too much time on drafting this perfect response to them because you want to cover all bases so that you have less to deal with later. And so that you also make sure that they know that you know what they're doing. We become little, not only makeshift attorneys, but also perfectionists at everything, at every little detail turns into like this thesis. And so, of course, it makes sense that you would want to avoid doing that or you'd want to put it off because it's going to take time. It's going to take energy. You leave that whole email session, right? Drafting that writing session, feeling drained of all your energy. Your mind mentally exhausted, physically exhausted. You just want to go to sleep. So it makes sense that you would want to avoid them. Each time a lawsuit will come up, each time I got served, I would be presented with the problem of, do I want to continue on with the current attorney or the attorney that I used in my last case? Or do I need to, my question was always, do I need to find someone that's less expensive by the hour or a less expensive retainer fee? That was always the fear, the biggest fear and question in my mind. Well, of course, there was a bigger fear, and that was losing my role as my daughter's mom, right? Active role as my daughter's mom. But when it came to decision making, it was always the money issue. Do I need to go find new representation? And are they going to represent me well enough? Like, are they going to do the job? It was always this balancing of like, can I even afford this person? And even going on consultations, I knew that was $250 a pop. So I would focus on the little problems around finding the attorneys, but really the one thing that was deterring me was knowing that I probably couldn't afford them. So I found all of this other busying stuff to do around hiring the attorney. Hopefully that's making sense, but like it wasn't one thing or another. I just ended up staying in this place of confusion, sort of orbiting around this one. I was making the money the most important thing. And it is true. We don't have money. We obviously can't pay for these things. But because I was so focused around my fear of not being able to pay, guess what happened? I wasn't able to pay. And then I found somebody that was subpar because I could afford these people. I couldn't even afford them. But the main focus and main fear in my mind was, I can't afford this person. Who can I afford for the amount of money I have? And so that yielded really shitty results in the court cases to come. I get it. I know that there's a real issue with like, yeah, but I can't just make money grow, Shelby. But also too, when we're in that place of can't find ways, then we really won't find ways. But back when I wasn't so worried about the money, I had a great attorney. I had my first 3 attorneys were fantastic. After that, it all just went on this steady decline. And I had terrible attorney after terrible attorney because I kept lowering my standards because I kept thinking that I couldn't afford anybody better. After that, it all went downhill. I was trying to pinch pennies and it like did the opposite for me, which just proves my point here 100%. When we lower our standards based on anything, in this case, money, based on the fact that we can only afford this much, then you're limiting yourself and what your results can be. Because you're saying, well, what results can I get for this amount of money? So you end up screwing yourself because what if you let go of the money thing just for a moment? And I know people say, well, you can't hire somebody, you need to pay the retainer. But just hear me out. Like if you let go of your limitations and instead sort of asking yourself, what is it that I value in an attorney? I value them to be honest, to be upstanding, to be bulldog in court, and somebody that's like straight to the point, he gets the job done and cares about what they're doing and stands by their own morals and does not waver, that kind of stuff, then focus on that, not the money yet. Focus on that and that alone. If you find that attorney, then you ask yourself, how can I make this possible? That's when the money question comes in. How can I make this possible? Well, when you already limit yourself and only go for something based on what you think you can afford or what you think your ability is in some other way, you will fuck yourself every time because you're working from a deficit. You're working from scarcity, and abundance is what you need to be creating when you're going back in for your child. Okay. So there's that. Now, like I said, if you are not going back to court, use that for anything that's going on in your life today, right? Let's say you're in the radical acceptance mode of your situation of alienation, and your kids are your kids are grown, maybe they're not, whatever. Use this with anything that you are dealing with that goes for like any future careers that you're looking to shift into. Don't look for careers based on your limitations. That would be crazy, right? To look, oh, I can't do this, this, and this, and I can only do this. So what are the jobs there? That's a low quality way of going about getting what you want in life. Now, a better way to do that is maybe I don't have that ability right now, but I can get it. I just learn it. It becomes a non-issue. It's the same thing with court and money. The money thing, you always want to keep it in the back of your mind, but do not make that the main criteria for finding your attorney. I'm hearing this question a lot. That's why I went to that. But okay, so it makes sense why you would be putting off going and interviewing attorneys like I did, right? Doing the consults because you are telling yourself that you can't afford anybody. That fear will keep you spinning. And then you're going to pick the shittiest attorney at the last minute or represent yourself because you haven't done the legwork and because you already talked yourself out of the game before you even got up to bat. You're not helping yourself. So asking yourself the right questions before going into whatever it is that you're tasking your mind and yourself to do, whatever you're committing to. Not what is my capability based on my limitations, but what is it that I want and how can I get there? What do I value? My non-negotiables. What are my non-negotiables? And what am I doing to get there? Those are more high quality questions, open-ended questions that will lead you. Your brain doesn't like to resist a question, right? And so if you ask it yes or no questions or limiting sort of questions that are like, you can't afford that, right? Or like, how am I supposed to find somebody to represent me when I barely have any money? Those are going to get you low quality type results. Whether you have situations that mirror the ones that I just shared with you, or you have other areas that you tend to put off in your life, it all boils down to usually, unless we're talking about the surface things, chances are that the reason you're not doing it is because of fear. Sure, you know this. This is probably it's so Googleable. But yeah, it's the fear of discomfort, fear of the unknown, of what might happen when you do face whatever it is that it is. Like the email, right? Opening up the email from your kiddo's mom or dad, other parent. When we're avoiding this, even though we may well know exactly and could probably recite before even reading verbatim what that email is going to say, in our brains, that dun is the fear of the discomfort of actually coming face to face to terms with whatever that is. Because there might be a story similar to, you're not a fit parent. You are not capable of parenting your kid. I am going to challenge your role as a parent, right? And that is ultimately what we all fear, is that life as we know it, our identities are at risk of being taken away. Ultimately, this is a human, like all humans have this fear. And so if your identity is in question, who are you going to become? And that even goes for let's say there's things that you're avoiding that you know are to your benefit. So you think that you would want to do the things because it's going to change your life for the better, and you know it, like going and finishing up your degree, or going for the job interview, writing the book, doing that, whatever it is, right? For whatever reason, you keep dragging your feet and you know it's what you need to do and what you want to do, and you just can't seem to bring yourself to doing the simple tasks it takes. Maybe you'll even have a roadmap per se, like you've actually got a how-to step-by-step of what you need to do in order to become the new version of you, but you are paralyzed with fear, right? You start to invent reasons why you can't do the thing. I'm not motivated. I'll do it tomorrow. Our brains like to trick us and tell us that we can put it off because later the motivation or the inspiration will actually just show up for us, that we won't have to do anything. And later on, it'll be there for us. Later on, we'll have the time. But right now, it's just not convenient. It'll come up with all these ways to sort of distract you, deter you off your plan so that you can stay stagnant. And more importantly, stay as the version of you that's already known. It's the devil you know. Not that you're the devil, just that the misery that you might feel like you're in right now, there's a clear path out of that. You're like, no, I just need to do this, this, and this, and then I'll be where I wanted to be. But you can't, because your brain is keeping you on this. I'm not motivated. I'm not feeling innovative. I'm not hitting flow state, depending on what you're doing, right? You will always have a reason until you come to terms with and address and manage your mind around the fact that by doing the thing, you're going to evolve and adopt a new version of you. And that's okay, but the subconscious mind will have you believe that it's not okay. So with the stuff that we don't want to do, like truly don't want to do, and we're dreading it, like opening up the emails, drafting the emails, it's crazy because it's just somebody saying words, right? It doesn't mean that that actually is going to be our reality, but we don't want anything threatening our view of ourselves and our reality moving forward. And so that's why we do it. That's why we avoid that stuff. But by avoiding it, it only makes the fears become more true, because it's always looming in the back of your mind. It's always like on in the background playing as if you haven't closed out that application, right? So you've never actually fully had closure with it yourself. Whereas when you open the email, you address everything there for yourself, not for them. Like address it to yourself. Like, is this true? Is this true? Is this true? Is this an actual threat or whatever? What do I need to deal with? What not? Then you can actually swipe up on that app, and then it's out of the background of your mind. You've closed it all out. You've checked the boxes and moved along. But the longer that you avoid it, the longer it's sitting there looming. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. But also, I'm just lending you guys some probabilities of what might be going on with you. But I think it would do you a lot of good for in the moment asking yourself, you don't have to make it super deep, but like, what am I actually fearing here? Or what am I wanting out of this situation ultimately here? And what am I telling myself? Like, what is the low quality part of me, like subconscious and survival brain, telling me that's important right now? Is that really what's important in the long run? And if it's not, then find out what is and keep redirecting your mind to the things that are important, reminding yourself. Because a lot of times we'll place like this importance on the things that are like the false importance, right? It's the stuff that doesn't matter anyway. So we're just wasting time, not only by procrastinating on the things that we really want to do, but also wasting time maybe busying ourselves in the negativity of somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully this is all coming together. I'm worrying, like in the back of my mind is placing importance on y'all taking what I'm getting ready to say wrong. And I think I just I want to put it out there that that's what's going on for me. But I also want to not censor myself when I'm saying this, because I know that where I'm coming from is for genuine love and care and desire for y'all to, to heal and create an amazing life for yourself, even in the absence of your children in your home. You know what I'm saying? So just know that I'm coming from a really loving, genuine place here. When it comes to feeling purposeful in your life, I think we get so distracted. We often get distracted by what is the noble purpose, right? Like, if I am a good parent, and I've talked with you guys about this, about holding on to, the pain as your way to feel connected to them, and how we often tie those two together. If I hold on to my pain, then I will hold on to my connection and to my active role as parent. It's almost like this vigilante feel to it. But what I want to address with you guys is how sometimes when we hold on to this, what we think we're obligated to in order to keep that role as active parents, the waters get all muddy, because we're having to keep this front up, and that front is limiting your ability to create new moving forward. And when I say create new, I'm not saying leaving your child behind, but there can be and alsos, instead of always having to love around this identity that you might feel obligated to carry. Feeling purposeful and finding purpose can feel incredibly challenging and damn near impossible when you're trying to fit yourself in some box that closes you back into a corner and doesn't allow you to spread your wings. If you've adopted a persona of a purpose, right? And that purpose isn't working for you any longer. Like, I encourage you guys to be very honest with yourself about what it is that you're remaining committed to, right? What stories you have about yourself, about your life, and about your purposes going forward that you're sticking with, right? And that you're investing in. Because if those things that you're investing in aren't actually fully, like, if they're going against all of the other qualities about you, and you're feeling like you have to remain committed to these qualities because that's proving your point, or proving your dedication to your kiddo, I just want to, I just want to offer that maybe you become open to seeing how it doesn't have to be so black or white, and that we don't have to define ourselves to the point where you are set apart and the exception to any of the rules. The more that you define yourself and put yourself into these, like, all these, the special snowflake categories, the less connected you're going to feel, the less support you will have. Like, for me, I had to be willing to divorce all of who I was and what my purposes were, and everything about me, what I believed in, what I thought was right, what I thought was wrong, who my friends were, who my family was, what family meant, actually, what a family is, like, what is like, every rule that I ever had and felt an allegiance to, or felt a conviction for, I had to be willing to divorce it all, to let it all dissolve and go away. And then from that point, once I wasn't committed to any of the identifiers of me, of Shelby, then I could slowly, mindfully adopt those characteristics back in, those beliefs, those ideas, with a new twist to each one of them. I questioned everything. And I know I talk about this a lot, but I think it's so important when you're going to purpose yourself to doing anything new. All right, so I'm going to switch gears for a second, and we're going to go over to the other question I have for you, which is, what are you purposing yourself for? Like, what are your desires? What are your wants? What are your ultimate goals? And of course, procrastination fits into that, because if you're not working towards those, or you've been putting them off, or you've been sort of toying with the idea of purpose, but every time you do, you end up not following through on your commitments to yourself. This is why I feel like I've been wanting to visit these together. At least that's what's making sense in my brain today. So ask yourself that question. What is your purpose for today? What is your purpose for this month, for this year, for this lifetime? You may not have the lifetime answer yet, and you don't have to. I think that sometimes we feel so pressured because it seems like it should have so much meaning and so much importance, right? That it does. It feels so pressury, and you're not sure where you fit into that equation, especially after adjusting to maybe not having your kid at home at all, or at least as much as you once thought you were going to. Life has not turned out in the way that you thought it would. And so sometimes what happens is we just decide to rebel and dissociate, pull back on life altogether. We say, if we can't have what we want, then we will have none. Thank you. Nope. Take it all back. I don't want any of it. Understandably so. I'm not poking fun at that at all. But for any disappointment, whether we're talking about in the trivial, small, or big, I give myself an allotted amount of time ahead of time to, like, when it first happens. Usually it's like a 24-hour period to be angry about it. It depends on what it is. And then I move on from there so that I don't deprive myself of that time to be angry about it, to want to rebel, to be, dysfunctional even. Usually these days I do that on the inside, not usually act out in that, but you know what I'm saying. So I do a lot for a little bit of time there, and then I choose to make meaning out of my pain and then do service work. But you do you. You guys know that I love Mark Manson. And whenever I read his Cell Art, of Not Giving a Fuck, one of the ideas that he wrote about in this book changed my world completely, where he was talking about success and purpose and what defines you moving forward. He has an article out that is the shorter version of that portion of the book. And the article is called, and I suggest you guys go read it because it's a great one and it's a really quick read. But it's called The Most Important Question of Your Life. One of the things he says in here, the quality of your life is not determined by the quality of your positive experiences, but the quality of your negative experiences. And I remember back when thinking, oh my God, without these deeply painful, significant, negative, horrific, earth-shattering, devastating events that I had experienced, my life would never have the potential to have the profound positive meaning that I wanted it and that I believe that it does have today. So it's like you can't, and I've explained this before, that all of our emotions, and maybe this is where I started to adopt this belief too, is that our emotions are on this spectrum, right? And you can't have the bad without the good without the bad. You have to have both in order to appreciate that one is the other and that they're both there. Because if everything was good and if we were always happy, then it wouldn't be happy. It would just be normal. And so the quality and the degree of happiness that you're able to experience on this earth is directly related to the degree of negative, icky experiences that you've had here on this earth. And the time that you spent there, the intensity of that negativity, now you can experience to the opposite degree, the intensity of the positivity. I think this is so huge to understand, especially coming from the trauma that we have. It isn't all for nothing, right? You went through this stuff not because, I know this maybe sound crazy, but you went through this stuff not because you were so misfortunate and poor us, poor me, I'm a victim and my life has been terrible and I am just a martyr. I was meant to be a martyr for the rest of my life. I remember saying that exact thing to my ex years ago. Maybe I'm just meant to be like the sacrificial lamb. Maybe I'm just a martyr. I believed it. I fully believed it. But it's not just about all of the doom and gloom. That's not what my life is about. If I have experienced that, then I am made and meant for the most euphoric, joyful experiences as well. So to continue on with that, my pain, your pain essentially gives you the key to all of the happiness that you would like to create, right? This was your ticket in to this amazing life that you're creating for yourself. You just actually have to take the ticket and purpose it. The potential is there. I like to think of it all like whatever you want to create in your life, it's all sitting in a room somewhere for you or in an area. All you have to do is stick the key in, unlock it, and access it. It's all there. Nobody else is going to access the things that you want. They're there for you waiting. But in order to get there, in order to take advantage of all of the goodness, you have to be willing to experience negative emotion. I think we all have experience of having negative happen, not at our choosing, like when life was happening at us and to us, and as we were sort of just rolling with the punches, right? But now going and living life intentionally and creating purpose for yourself, creating a meaningful life moving forward, we have to choose negative emotion because we know that with negative emotion comes the rewards as well. It's not like that you have to go through the fire in order to get to the prize. I mean, yeah, yes and no, kind of. It's all together. Like when we stop seeing negative emotion as so negative, then we can also experience the positive emotion, and it's not going to be such like so much suffering. So Mark Manson poses the question in the book and in this article too, is not what is it that you want? What do you want to create? What is your purpose in life? But what are you willing to struggle for? What are you willing to go through walk through that fire for? That will weed out all of the noise and all of the idealistic, I want more money and I want a better job and I want the best relationship and I want blah, blah, blah. When you ask yourself, what are you willing to endure? All of a sudden, the options become less. I loved being and calling myself an artist back in the day. I guess I kind of consider myself to be, an artist, but I never really wanted to put the time in order to better myself in the art world. And so to me, that was not a worthwhile purpose. I mean, it's not that I didn't enjoy it, but did I want to spend all my waking hours and choose that over other things that I could be doing? Not really. It just wasn't actually for me in the end. And now, doing what I do now, I would choose it again and again and again. This is a passion of mine, right? And I would move all the mountains in order to continue it. The same thing with working out. This is probably an overused comparison, but if you are somebody that enjoys working out and enjoys the soreness, the muscle soreness when you go to the gym, the day after you go to the gym, if you get a rush from running out in the middle of the day, like the hottest time of the day, heat, like I do, I love to go running during the hottest, most miserable time in the day because I like the feeling that I get when I'm mid-run, sweating like crazy, sun beating down. I love that feeling of agony. It's masochistic. But I enjoy that pain when I'm lifting weights and that burn that I'm getting during the workout to just get 1 more or 4 more reps because I know in the end that I'm causing myself to become stronger, right? I thoroughly enjoy that. I don't know if I did to begin with, but once I learned what I was doing with my body, and that each time that I felt that burn, that was because I was making microscopic tears in my muscles so that they could build scar tissue essentially and get bigger. I was like, I am in, sign me up. Let's keep doing this. And then I became a personal trainer. But I enjoy that stuff. It's the struggle that I choose. I really love doing that. So I think that I always will go to the gym. I will always go out of my way to coach other people, other parents like me, going through trauma and grief of not spending time with their children. Those are things that I know I've chosen them and I always will. I'll probably always choose the pain of having animals in my life. And it's awful sometimes. And sometimes I want to what am I thinking? And it is a struggle sometimes, but I also love it so much. What I want to ask you is, what are you willing to endure in order to get you where you want to go? What are the things that you will struggle for? Pick your poison with the pain that you choose, That to me, because in order to get anything that we want in life, we are going to have to put in I mean, this is so cliche and it's so known, but we got to put in the work. You have to put in the work in order to get where you want to go. And when you find that thing or those things that you are willing to suffer and struggle for, then it's not going to feel so much of a struggle. For me, the gym isn't really a struggle at all. I feel the burn, like literally feel that, but I love it. Doing what I do with my clients and spending sometimes 18 hours a day doing it and doing all the boring back work that y'all don't see. I love it. And I would do it over and over and over again because I love it. Even the editing and the shitty parts of it, I still love it. I live for it. Some call that crazy. That's okay. I call it a passion. I feel like that's like a song. Maybe that's don't call it a comeback. Anyway, what are you willing to struggle for? I posted this quote in a private Facebook group the other day, and the quote was by Rumi, and it was, "What you seek is seeking you." And I was waiting for somebody to come back with the response that did actually end up coming back from one of the other parents in there. And they said, "I seek my children." This is the response that I know that I would have had just a few years ago. I would have had one track mind. Yeah, I seek my children. And I would have used this quote as a reason to set myself apart and like, see, I'm the exception to the rule and I'll never be happy because the things that I seek are not seeking me. There's a block between me and the things that I want and that I desire. And so I was waiting for somebody to respond back with this, right? I want my children and they don't want me. And the question I posed back, what is it that you think that having your children home with you will provide you? What is the emotion or the experience that you believe they will give or that circumstance will give you? Whatever the answer is to that, it's usually at peace. It would cause me to feel content, loved, purposeful, confident in creating a better life moving forward. Whatever you think that your children are going to provide for you, you have the option to feel that and provide that for yourself right now in the moment. Because your children actually never provide you the feelings, the emotions that you're desiring, the result that you're desiring. It's your thoughts that you have about whatever they do or don't do, or the thoughts that you think and emotions that you think that you will have when that day comes. But when we're always placing it outside of us and in their hands, then it never will actually come as sweet as when we do it for our own selves. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to back to that, what are you willing to struggle for? This question, I think, was so key in my whole mindset around what I was willing to struggle for with my child. Because when I was the one deciding, do I want to struggle for my child? Which battles am I going to pick? That all of a sudden it didn't become them, meaning the alienating parent and his wife, my daughter's stepmom, making me struggle. It wasn't being done at me. I was making the choice on whether I was wanting to struggle for my end goal, to remain committed to trusting and believing that one day we will come back together. Like, because of the fact that I made that choice long ago to struggle for this because it was something that I believed in, like I will always choose to struggle for my daughter. To an extent, like I'm not going to unnecessarily struggle and suffer, but I am choosing this for us on purpose. That is my choice. They don't make me struggle anymore. I choose this. I choose this because it's one of my purposes. And because I choose it, the effort and the struggle, it's almost non-existent because I've already made that that is who I am. That is what I do. You know, but when somebody else, it's done at the hand of somebody else, it is exhausting because it's the mindset is it's being done at us. We just don't know which way it's coming from. They're so unpredictable. And every holiday that comes around, she didn't call me on my birthday. She didn't call me on Mother's Day. I didn't hear from her again. It's been however many months. You guys, I mean, I understand that this is how you do it because I was there, right? But I want to say that if you want to stop feeling that way and stop looking at your watch or looking at the calendar or looking at holidays, going through them and feeling disappointed, feeling let down, feeling done wrong, feeling like you are being made to struggle, then make the decision one way or the other about how you want to live it moving forward. Because it honestly, you making the decision like, I'm struggling for this. This is my choice. This is my challenge here. After that, to me, it feels like the rest sort of just falls away. I don't know how else to explain that. I'm tired and it's late, but like, it's not the burden that it once was when it wasn't my choice, you know? So what are the struggles that you are willing to go for? And for what? What purpose are you willing to pursue, knowing that you will endure? Because once you know that, it's never really a huge burden or a pain. Just like going to the gym, it's like, yeah, the burn is just part of it. When you feel the muscle burn, then you're doing it right. When I feel like a little bit of the letdown, which I don't really feel, I wouldn't even call it letdown, but when I get rejected over and over or don't get the calls, this is just part of it. That just means I'm doing it right. You know, this is how you get there. This is me committing to the relationship. It's not like I'm being done wrong at this point. This is just, I know I'm doing it right because here I am. I keep showing up and I'm not getting tired. So anyway, that's really what I wanted to get to today. Out of all of what I just said today, that's really the point that I wanted to get to, is when you make the decision to walk through the fire, then the rest of it, it's not even hot. The coals aren't hot. It's all for something. And the more that you get clear on your purposes and why you are pursuing them, the less that you are going to want to procrastinate, the less that this will be an issue. So back to the beginning with the procrastinating, when you're procrastinating, just remind yourself that it's happening most often. Well, it's always happening because of a fear. When we're not talking about like the little things, right? Like the taking out the trash and whatever, like the menial things that we're just don't feel like doing because it's uncomfortable. For the bigger, more emotional things, it is because of fear of losing out or fear of the unknown. And the losing out could be like, if we're talking about our custody situation, the fear of losing out or facing the possible losing our role as active parent in our children's lives. And just keep reminding yourself in the moments that you want to run and turn the other way, that role ultimately nobody can take away from you from the time that they were born until the end of time. You are their parent. Would love for you to, haven't signed homework in a long time for the podcast, but start considering what purposes you're willing to struggle for. What's important to you? And what are you willing to endure? All right, that's all I have for you because I'm exhausted. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening today. If you like what you're hearing and you'd like to hear more, please make sure to click subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. Also, for bite-sized clips and tips, be sure to find me on TikTok or Instagram. See you next week.